1 miles. That is the narrowest gap between Britain and continental Europe. A strip of cold gray water so congested that, on any given morning, you can count 500 ships crossing your field of view before lunch. 500 vessels a day, day after day, carrying roughly a third of the world's maritime traded goods. If you have ever bought European wine, driven a German car, eaten Spanish fruit, or plugged in a device whose battery was made in Asia, there's a good chance that cargo squeezed through this corridor. Block it, carried, and within 72 hours the consequences are felt from London to Leipzig. This is the Strait of Dover, and it is far more fragile than it looks. The English Channel is a geological accident. Around 8,000 years ago, rising seas after the last ice age flooded the land bridge connecting Britain to France, carving what sailors call the Pass Calais, the Step of Calais. The result is a funnel. Ships traveling between the Atlantic and the North Sea, between the Americas and Europe, between the Persian Gulf and Rotterdam, between East Asia and every major northern European port, have essentially one practical sea route, and it passes through this funnel at its narrowest point, between the white cliffs of Dover and the gray headland of Cap Gris-Nez in northern France. There is no meaningful alternative. Going around the British Isles adds 3 to 4 days of steaming time and thousands of dollars in fuel per voyage. For the volumes involved, that cost is prohibitive, carried. So they all come through here, container ships stacked 10 stories high with electronics and clothing, super tankers laden with crude oil from the Gulf, car carriers, bulk carriers, chemical tankers, LNG vessels, ro-ro ferries running the Dover, Calais crossing every 90 minutes carrying the trucks that feed Britain's supermarkets. In 2024, cargo ships accounted for roughly half of all vessels transiting the strait, with tankers representing a significant share of that figure. The Port of Dover alone handles around 31% of all heavy goods vehicle traffic crossing UK seaports. Approximately 2.2 million freight trucks in 2023, with most of that freight moving between Britain and the European Union. Add the Channel Tunnel running beneath the sea, and you have, in a combined footprint barely 20 miles wide, more surface trade transit density than almost anywhere else on Earth. And underneath the water, it gets more critical still. The first submarine telegraph cable in history was laid right here in 1850, connecting Dover to Calais. Today, dozens of fiber optic cables cross the channel bed, carrying the data flows that connect Britain to European financial markets, cloud infrastructure, and real-time communications. Those cables sit in shallow water, exposed to the anchors of passing ships and the gear of fishing trawlers. Worldwide, accidental physical damage accounts for between 150 and 200 subsea cable faults every year. The English Channel, with its intense trawling activity, is among the highest risk corridors on the planet for this kind of damage. Managing 500 vessels a day through a 21-mile gap with two-way traffic is not a passive exercise. The Strait of Dover runs under a traffic separation scheme, 2 lanes like a motorway, with vessels in the southwest lane heading up channel toward the North Sea, and vessels in the northeast lane heading down toward the Atlantic. Ships crossing the lanes, including the constant ferry traffic between Dover and Calais, must do so at right angles. This system was introduced in 1967, making it the first international maritime organization approved traffic separation scheme in the world. Compliance is mandatory under the international collision regulations. A joint Anglo-French control operation runs it around the clock. The Dover Maritime Rescue Coordination Center on the British side and Cap Gris-Nez on the French side. Any vessel over 300 gross tons must report to one of these two centers before transiting, but rules and radar do not eliminate friction. Freighters cut corners. Vessels lose power. Fog compresses visibility to near zero. The historical record is littered with collisions. The Texaco Caribbean sank in 1971. The Herald of Free Enterprise capsized near Zeebrugge in 1987, killing 193 people after leaving port with its bow doors open. Modern AIS tracking has reduced the worst incidents, but the traffic density means the margin for error is structurally thin. A new and persistent hazard has emerged. Boats in small bore. More than 36,000 people attempted the channel crossing in inflatable dinghies. In 2025, that figure rose to around 41,000. These vessels cross the separation scheme at unpredictable angles, largely invisible to radar at sea level, in the path of freighters that cannot stop or turn fast enough to avoid them. The channel is simultaneously one of the most surveilled and most dangerous maritime environments in the world. Post-Brexit, the corridor has acquired political layers it did not have before. Britain left the EU's single market in 2021. Border checks, once absent, were phased in at Dover. A 2015 French ferry workers' strike that backed up 7,000 trucks along the Kent motorway cost British businesses an estimated £21 million of spoiled stock in a matter of days. Authorities calculated that adding just 2 minutes of checks to every lorry arriving at Dover would create a 17-mile traffic jam. The Channel Tunnel reported a 4% decline in freight traffic in the first half of 2024, reflecting ongoing friction in UK-EU trade. The waterway itself has not changed, the political geography around it has, and that changes the pressure it operates under. Now imagine it stops. Not a strike, not fog, not a collision, but a deliberate closure. No vessel transits, no ferries, no tankers, no container ships. Within 3 days, British supermarkets begin running short of fresh produce. Most of it crosses on those trucks through Dover. Within a week, manufacturing supply chains across Northern Europe fracture. Just in-time delivery systems, optimized to move parts across the channel within hours, have no buffer. North Sea oil reaching European refineries would reroute eventually, but not quickly and not cheaply. The financial data flowing through those fiber cables on the sea has redundancy, but cutting even one major cable triggers outages that cost tens of millions of dollars per hour for the affected institutions. The channel has been closed before. Wars, storms, strikes. Each time the consequences were swift and expensive. What makes the modern version different is the degree of optimization. Supply chains have been stripped of inventory to cut cost. Time is not resilient by design, it is efficient by design. Any disruption lasting more than 48 hours arrives downstream as scarcity. 21 miles of gray water, a third of the world's seaborne trade. No detour that does not cost days and fortune. The Strait of Dover does not look like a choke point from the surface. It looks like a busy road. But like all the best traps, its danger is hidden in plain sight. The world has decided it can afford to make this single stretch of water load-bearing. So far, it has been right. The question is how long that assumption holds.